Poison. A serialized timeline tale. Written and produced by Kimiko Jones. Performed by Monica Asher. This is a still unwritten LLC production. Audiobook copyright 2024 by Kimiko Jones. All rights reserved. Part 0. Prologue. I knew she was poison from the moment I saw her. I didn't need to give her a chance or get to know her. I knew she was up to no good the moment her lily-white ass, who up until then had never interacted with black people outside of her family's hired help, decided to up and enroll at an HBCU. The red flags were there. I saw them plain as day. The bitch reeked of motive under her Chanel No. 5 eau de parfum, and I wasn't going for it. Whatever gains she was going for would receive no traction. She wouldn't gain an inch of leverage on me or anyone I knew or loved, not if I had anything to do with it. Being that we both lost the roommate lottery that intimately forced us into each other's lives at random, I would say, yeah, I had something to do with it. Now a rich white girl going to a black school is hardly a justifiable reason not to like her, let alone suspect her of being toxic. But Becky Boots was not just some regular old white girl. She was a byproduct of the quintessential wasp nest elite. Her pedigree afforded her hereditary membership into a uniquely antiquated class known as old money gentry, entitling her to all the rights and privileges thereof, including obscene wealth, economic influence, political power, social deference, and unmitigated entitlement that surpasses the likes of your standard white privilege. Everyone else seemed able to give her the benefit of the doubt. I just couldn't do it. Her presence felt like a violation. Clearly, she did not belong there. Anyway, it didn't matter. This bitch wasn't right regardless of her race. I initially kept her at arm's length with a polite but icy demeanor. I kept my eyes on her. I was watching, waiting for her to do something shady. I didn't have to wait very long. She tried me almost immediately. In the grand scheme of things, that first hiccup was relatively insignificant. One could charge it to the ignorance of her privilege. But for me, it was proof of concept, and all the justification I needed to abandon my home training and declare her persona non grata. From that point on, I used my tough, no excuses, no fucks given talent for speaking my truth to power, to let her know that I knew that she was toxic. I called her out on it every chance I could. I was loud and obsequious as if to warn her not to fuck with me. Everything I did was toward fulfilling a singular mission. I wanted her out of my life. But first, I had to get her out of my dorm room. So throughout the first half of sophomore year, I studied my target. The more I learned, the more her every move seemed part of some nefarious grand scheme. I dedicated all my free time carefully observing signs and connecting dots. I became proficient in compiling and analyzing intelligence, all to inform an effective counterattack. I needed to stay one step ahead of her game to anticipate her next moves. If she came for me again, I'd do so in kind. I carried on that way, plotting and lying in wait behind cracked doors, thinking I was the more clever of the two. But the methodology that I used to identify and outsmart past devils, who before her, I had only dealt with from afar, had failed me. I misconstrued her toxicity. She wasn't just some uppity rich chick flexing her privilege to the detriment of anyone who stood in her way. She was something else entirely, something dark. I sensed hints of its essence but could not make out its form. It turned out she wasn't just your nameless garden variety beast of allegory device. She was the beast. The original. Mankind's first formidable foe. In theory, her knowledge of my knowledge, of her true identity as the serpent from the garden in disguise as a regular college student, was supposed to neutralize her threat, therefore, making me immune to any intentional or unintentional tribulations. But my rationale proved foolhardy in the face of my adversary. She would prove her wicked gifts for manipulation, cunning, and lies were just as potent and God-defying as they were when she first whispered in Adam's ear and convinced him to defy his maker and think for himself. But what good is being able to recognize a snake if you don't understand the nature of its venom? Not every poison is lethal. Not every lethality is imminent. Her poison was that of the malingering kind, slow, methodical, and unexpected. Like boiled frog nuts. When she bites, her teeth pierce the skin, breaking through the fascia and subcutaneous layers, to embed into the muscle, releasing venom. The only evidence of the attack is a faint 2-hole puncture wound that will scar over just as soon. Such a tiny indication of exposure, designed to gaslight you and fool you into thinking you'll be all right. But the scar is not benign. It marks you, like a neon sign above your head, that only nefarious species from the nocturnal underbelly can see. You walk away thinking you survived the bite, but the worst of the venomous effects are still to come. In reality, you were a dead bitch walking, the moment you and the snake locked eyes. My spurious antics shrouded my impending doom, and her venom consumed me. Killing me softly, slowly. At a rate just gradual enough to outlast her entrance into my world, my naive antics to repel the beast, my misguided notions of safety, and then? The unsuspecting bite. Suspended in the mind-numbing void of silence, that can only be heard after a gunshot, it occurs to me. I'm going down for this. The numbness in my legs starts to give way to a torturous tingle. My arms are still positioned to shoot as I lay in the same narrow spot between our beds, where I was forced to make my final stand against my rabbit, foaming at the mouth roommate. The scene plays in my mind, like a film reel from a vintage picture show, looping continuously on its galloping track, first from beginning to end, and then, from end to beginning. It shows me and my roommate as we wrestled for possession of the loaded firearm. As we tussled, the gun began to slip out of my sweat-slicked hands. It was looking as if I would lose this fatal tug-of-war and undoubtedly, my life. That is until I fortuitously tripped over my backpack, and was knocked off balance. The extra weight of gravitational pull aided my grip, earning me the leverage I needed to assume the advantage. As I went down, the weapon went with me. With the pendulum suddenly indicating me in its favor, I made ready to end the fatal contest. It was instinct. In one seamless motion, I rolled over on my back, aimed, and fired. Lying in the aftermath of what just transpired, I now realize. I should have run. I knew this would happen. No matter how I played it, a version of this disaster was destined to come to fruition. I saw distorted glimpses of the outcome flash within the reflexive swirls of an unknowable future. Only now am I able to see the scene clearly. My warnings, hell, my threats, meant nothing to her. Up until tonight, she didn't realize who she was. She didn't know her own motive or endgame. I know that now. She didn't plot the explosion that occurred here tonight. And that of her perceived threat? If not premeditated, then it could not have been the sole contributing force behind my current predicament. Just so, my reactions to said threat cannot be mitigated for cause, making me complicit in shaping our intertwined fates into this tragedy of Shakespearean proportion. As I come to terms with the depths of my foolishness, My glazed-over eyes become affixed to the growing pool of blood, slowly spreading in a crimson halo around my dead roommate's head. I consider 1,000 futures. None of them end with me walking away from this episode unscathed. Different scenarios of what to do next flood my frontal lobe. They play out in my mind, in a multivariable loop, with each iteration, only once removed from the last, like the infinite nature of an electric cloud. With each subtle change in the equation, the outcomes depicted are clearly distinct and astronomically profound. Blackness closes in around my eyes as I wait to no longer exist. I wish I was anywhere other than in this wretched room. The same room where only moments ago, my roommate tried to kill me. The room where the tragic deconstruction of my world began. You are listening to Poison, a serialized timeline tale. Written and produced by Kimiko Jones. Performed by Monica Asher. Tune in next time for episode 2. This has been a Still Unwritten, LLC production. Production and audiobook copyright 2024 by Kimiko Jones. All rights reserved.